All right, hello. Here we are.
We're live.
That's
We're
right.
live.
I'm I'm
We're live.
I'm Frank. There's Lucas below me and Andrew to my, I guess, right or left. I don't know. He said left on when you're on the screen, right when I'm sitting here. But anyway,
Green
and
left. Yeah.
exactly. We are the generations of the Marchesani. So obviously, Andrew is surname is Young, but he's got half Marchesani blood, so it is definitely part of the familia. We have been Giants season ticket holders since 1964. All hail to the patriarch, Peter Marchesani. That's right. The man who started this all way, way back in the shadow of Yankee Stadium. And we'll talk more about that as we go on here, but we just decided we were going to, or I decided and invited you two in. The three of us, we spend our time texting quite a bit during the season, during the off season. It's actually how in the off season I know what the heck's going on because I spend my time a little bit doing other things, and when my phone starts to blow up, I know something happened with the Giants, and it's thanks to you two. And I thought it'd be interesting for us, given this week the Giants kicked off with the Hard Knocks episode, that the season essentially has started, right? So this is the 100th season for the Giants. It's the 60th season of us having season tickets. I like round numbers. Seem like a fun thing to do. So we're going to spend our time just talking about things Giants. It doesn't mean we won't divert into other things. We'll probably bring in many other family members if we keep this going up after this first one. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But I don't really care if anybody watches. If anything, we're creating a historical log. This is I'm a big fan of the movie Galaxy Quest. These will be our historical documents, right? These are the things that the next generation will look back and go, oh, wow, now I understand why we still have these tickets and why they cost, the PSLs are $100,000 in 2075 or whatever they turn out to be at that point. So anyway, yeah, just to give you logistics, so I'm down in St. Lucie, Florida. I'll let kind of Andrew tell where he is, and then Lucas can jump in too, just to kind of give a little bit of an intro if anyone's watching this that doesn't actually know us.
So I'm Andrew. Live in Eastern Long Island. Originally from Maryland. Made the move up here right before COVID. So was an interesting dynamic moving up here right before that all happened. So definitely being cooped up in the house and Giants football was priority number one for most of that time. Still is. I used to be a car ride away from games. Now I hop on a train and I'm at the stadium. So definitely a ease of getting to games now. Try to get to as many as I can.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a safety blanket, I guess, of the family. If somebody can't make it, like, hey, can't make it, you want the tickets kind of deal. And I hop up on a Sunday morning and make it into MetLife. So definitely a cool dynamic now. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll comment a little bit on that. Just to amuse. So it's always good to share your credentials, right, for what give you authority. So I'll talk, obviously, Giants fan from way, way back. I'll admit, when I was a little kid, I was actually growing up just outside of Baltimore, so I was a Colts fan until I went to my first Giants game in '77. But my athletic credentials is I topped out as a bench player as junior high school basketball. So there's my athletic credentials. That's how far I went. Andrew went a bit farther, so Andrew, you can comment on your credentials, and then we'll turn to Lucas.
I played collegiate football at Albright College. Topped out, I guess, as a special teams extraordinaire.
That's right.
AKA from my uncle Pete, Vince Papali.
That's right. So, I prefer David Tyree. There you go. Let's do David Tyree.
There you go.
We don't name Eagles on this. Eagles are only talked about negatively on this show. We don't talk positively about Eagles. So.
Most of the success in the movie they were showing against the horrible Giants team.
That's right.
But yeah, topped out at college football. But this was always growing up in this family. Any type of sport that we could get into, hitting the ball, shooting the ball, catching the ball. Sports has been life. I feel like Lucas and we came out and it was, you're a Giants fan, nothing more, nothing less. And that's kind of what we rolled with. I don't think I liked any other teams or had it, So
sometimes I'm not sure you
that-
like this one, but that's okay. All right, they drive you crazy.
Oh.
All right, Lucas, give us in the end. Let's talk genealogy, right? The patriarch, my father, Peter, Lucas, my son, Andrew, my nephew, son of my sister, Kris. So go ahead, Lucas. Give us a little bit. Where are
Sounds like
you?
a Game of Thrones intro.
That's right.
There.
Where are you? And what's your credentials?
We're gonna start talking
What's-
houses here soon.
Yeah,
What's your
house,
credentials
exactly.
to speak in this?
I'm Lucas. I live out here in Pittsburgh, PA. Moved out in 2017, I think it was. Yeah, end of 2017. Unfortunately, I still root for this team. I'm losing my hair. My hair's going gray. These are driving me nuts. I've never seen Daniel Jones actually play live, like in person. Every
I
game
didn't
I've
know
been
that.
to, I've never seen Daniel Jones be the starting quarterback.
Wow.
He's always been injured or
And
one
he's
way or
coming up-
another.
he's
I've
coming up on
never
what,
seen
year
him play.
Year 6 almost.
This is six.
That's
six.
crazy.
So as someone who's never seen him, I've been done with him. I've never had to see him. Never had to go through the
You're
experience,
not
the
invested.
roller coaster that it was. I guess I will see him at least one time this year when they come out here.
Well, you'll have the chance to. I
in
think
October.
Injuries sometimes.
He'll
have
be
played in
injured.
the
Don't
role,
worry. Yeah,
right?
well, it'll be Drew Lock. It'll be Drew Lock. Maybe even DeVito. Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's the way I view this. I view this to start off as we could win as few as 4 games or as many as 9 games,
Okay.
and that's the range that I have.
Okay.
That's a big window.
Because we surprised year 1. We were awful last year. I don't know what it's going to be this year.
All right.
But
Well,
it could be weird.
Give us your athletic credentials.
My athletic credentials. My joke athletic credentials are I peaked in college as a D4 roller hockey all-star.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right.
My legitimate ones were a 4-year varsity ice hockey player. I never played a down of legitimate football, although I kind of wish I had, but, whatever. It is what it is. I'm an intramural football star, average a touchdown a game,
There you go.
reliable, multiple interceptions, and many time fantasy football champion and Madden connoisseur.
All right.
So
That's
there
an
you go.
excellent. That's a good segue because that does play into GM abilities, right? So,
Exactly, yeah.
So that's a good segue. In fact, to give a little bit of backstory there, I've done fantasy football since before Lucas was born. In fact, the year he was born, I named my team that year the Diaper Genies. All right, so that was the name of the team when I became a new father. But he started to get involved with my league. What were you, maybe 13?
That was 10.
10. He helped his uncle Pete draft, and that was one of the 2 years he won the championship. So there you go. So he's a pro.
I won the championship more times. than that.
No.
What do
One of
you
the 2
mean?
years Uncle
he
Pete
won it. Oh,
yeah,
like,
you were his. So he did. Pete did like the first 3 picks, and he had to go to his own hockey game, and so Lucas did the rest of it and built him a roster that was a winner. So, and now he's won the league multiple times. I think probably as many, if not more than I have, and I've been in it twice as long. So you can call into question my GM skills. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. So anyway, interesting stuff. All right. So again, I'm going to give a little overview from my perspective on the Hard Knocks. So I have become a Hard Knocks fan. I didn't watch it early on. I think the first one I watched with any sort of regularity was, which one was it? It might have been the Browns. I don't know. It was a few years back, and I thought, okay, this isn't too bad. So I've been pretty regular since. And I actually really got into last year when they did the in-season with the Dolphins. I thought that was fascinating to see the in-season stuff. And, we all love to talk about NFL collusion. And maybe they're just doing it timing-wise. They don't want to be too obvious. But remember, that season was going to go on with them until they were out of the playoffs. So if they were really colluding, you'd think the Dolphins would have made it to the Super Bowl, right? Because that would have kept that show going. So we'll see if in season 2 that's what happens, right? Who's the team that they pick? Maybe they're
It's the Ravens.
It's the whole AFC North.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
4 teams. They're doing
They're going to do all
teams.
4 teams in the North live, like in the season. Now, and I lost track. Who's the preseason?
Who was
Bears.
Bears.
Bears,
Right,
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
The Bears.
They usually pick a team for the training camp one that has like a big off. So obviously Caleb Williams number
Right.
one pick. So they usually try to get a scope on.
Well,
whoever's big at the time.
Yeah, and I've read the rules, and there's actually like it's because a lot of teams don't like to do it. It's usually bottom feeder teams, like you didn't make the playoffs. You haven't done it in the last like 5 years. There's a whole list, and
you can't have a rookie coach,
right? And we were percolating toward the top, and I think this was our compromise. Like we'll be the first ones to do this.
Yeah, I think this is our getting our feet wet and
exactly.
trying to give it a look.
Exactly. And anyway, so this one is the new format, and one of the things I found it's so different, right? Is like everything major offseason has played out. Like when you're doing it week to week in the training camp, there's some stuff you hear about before you watch the show because if something big happens, everyone's talking about it. But you don't know how the story ends. We kind of know how the story ends. So this is a very different perspective going back to January and listening to what they're saying. So I'm fascinated to see kind of like this one. I'll talk a little bit about it. This one was very focused obviously on GM Joe Schoen, and I have to wonder, is that really going to be the focus, or because it is general manager, are they going to get into player stories and stuff like that? I think they're going to move it around, but anyway, what were your initial impressions? I'll start with Lucas this time on this episode as a format.
I thought it was interesting. I figured it would be very GM centric, like to start, because it's basically like all the decisions that go in. Because this is before even like the combine. This is still when the playoffs are going on. They're figuring out like, all right, these are what's going to happen, X, Y, and Z. So I kind of figured this would be set up a lot. Saquon's a hot topic. I don't think we're going to hear anything about X. I think they were kind of just like, whatever, because he's not full of drama like a certain Eagles player is now. But yeah, like it's interesting. I came away really impressed with the guy. I think he is the director of player personnel, Kris Marchesani. He knew every player off the top of his head, like what they'd probably be worth. You wanted them. Like I was very impressed by him. So I like some of the guys. The mayor meddling was classic. Like if he was really running the team, we'd still have Saquon. Eli might even still be the quarterback at this point. So
that's funny.
And I also don't like that his son-in-law was like, well, now that Saquon's gone, what's our identity going to be? Well, we had the worst offense last 6 years. Maybe it's time to try something new. Weirdly enough, like, I don't know. Let's do something different because we can't just rely on one guy who's going to miss at least 5 games a year.
Yeah. I certainly agree. Andrew, what do you have to add to that or comment on from that?
I think it just filled a void for all of us thinking how they were going to handle the whole, if we're going to keep Saquon. It was cool to see how they ran all the different situations. If we tagged him and traded him, his value there, all the value. I think Shane kept emphasizing how many running backs are going to be on the market, and that it's probably going to be Saquon just at the forefront because of his wow factor and what he brings, but he's going to probably get overpaid. So, and then they looked, I feel like, at Singletary because he had the same kind of production. They knew him well from when they drafted him in Buffalo. So they, a lot of ties there. So
doesn't have a bad injury history. Like,
so very consistent, very, north and south kind of guy.
Yeah, and he's been productive on multiple teams, which I think is telling.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Right. So.
And I was surprised that the Texans didn't keep him around, but I guess they wanted to try to keep building.
I think they went Joe Mixon. I think
they did go Joe Mixon. Yeah. So very similar, very productive guy kind of deal. But
what did you guys think of Shane as a leader though? What did you observe about him? In how he handled his group and everything.
Well, I think he definitely has some of those Parcell, where he kind of just takes charge of a room kind of deal. So him coming from that tutelage, I wasn't surprised. Okay. And it was crazy to think that he's been around long enough. He was on the staff with the Panthers when they played the Patriots. So when he brought that up, I was totally shocked.
It was Dayball, it was against Dayball too.
He mentioned Dayball. So those guys have been around, good winning cultures. So that surprised me. But like I said, it was just, I liked how they finally filled that void of their thought process on Saquon and them not going, too far over the top trying to get him a contract. They kind of played it on the lower side.
What's the name of the player personnel guy? You say Rizzuto?
Kris Marchesani.
Rossetti. Yeah. Well, what did you think he was for or against the Saquon thing, or do you what do you think his mindset is, Lucas? I'll ask you.
I think it was like, well, this is what we like. I think his whole thing was don't underestimate what you think he's actually going to get. Because I think Shane kind of underestimated, like, no one's going to pay him.
Yeah.
The Eagles did like $13 million a year or whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
I think Shane was like, he'll get like 10. Our number's like 8 or 9.
Yeah.
And so, like, maybe if he are getting 10, we could still offer him and get him to where we want him to be. But someone was going to overpay for him.
Yeah. I thought what I liked about, like, to me, when I was reading Shane, I think he came into this already knowing what he was going to do. And I think the way he's leading his guys is almost to try to validate what he's already thinking, right?
Yeah.
And it's obvious because he talks about it too. Like his stock is tied to Daniel Jones, whether he likes it or not. And the telling thing of having a $40 million quarterback hand off to a $12 million running back.
I think that's the thing a lot of people walk away with.
I thought that was an interesting line. And I think Rossetti's his guy that is his counter that throws the other stuff to keep him thinking, right? They seem to have a good respect that way where it's, well, just think about this and this and this. But I'll tell you guys something too. I'll ask you a question. Do you know, because running backs are such an interesting category, right? Because so much of it can still be about the line, right? So to make that point, do you know who holds the record for the most rushing yards in a Super Bowl?
In a Super Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say like Emmett. I wanted to say with Emmett.
It's over 200 yards, too.
That's what I was going to say.
One guy did it, 204 yards. Yep.
Wait, who did it?
I didn't say it yet. 204 yards.
Okay. I'm still going to guess Emmitt Smith. Like,
who's your guess, Drew?
Or Terrell Davis.
Yeah, I'm thinking late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah. So those two guys, one is obviously Hall of Famer in the argument for top of all time. The other, Terrell Davis, did he make the Hall yet?
He did.
He did. I thought he did. Yeah. So two Hall of Famers. So again, meaning the back was the guy. Timmy Smith. Ever heard of him?
No.
You don't even know who he did it for, do you?
No.
Washington Redskins against the Broncos in 1987. And why do you think Timmy Smith had 200 yards?
Because he was
running behind the Hogs. That's right. So that's the real key, right? Get a line. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say that because even they threw out other teams. They said, imagine, in their discussions, Saquon's running behind that Eagles line or the
Lions. The Lions.
Yeah.
So basically, they were throwing shade at our own line, saying like,
they know. On the line, like, I was kind of surprised they didn't mention anything about like the whole coaching search there.
Yeah.
And they kind of also glazed. They glazed over the wing thing. I don't think they really wanted to bring it up anymore. I think it was like, let's not be a dead horse and just let it die.
Again, I've watched enough of this to know, and I think in this format, they might go back and cover some of these things again.
Yeah, they could.
Right? You might still get some insights. Like, because I'd be surprised if the whole like D coordinator Wink story is just what they talked about this time, because that was too big of a story to just say we have a D coordinator. So I think there's going to be a whole show. My guess, we'll see, where they kind of get into that story, because that was a salacious enough one that it's fun to talk about. Like Wink just walks away and leaves. Oh, what's with the balloons?
Somebody's birthday.
I was like,
celebration.
Your birthday is not. It's already passed
last week.
Anyway. And it's like also like we also got rejected by our first two options. Well, not rejected. One got paid more to go to the Titans, and the other one got promoted with the Bills. So
so
Shane Bowen wasn't even our first choice.
Yeah,
Dayball's thing with that was, and he just was showing Shane the phone. This was his ranking in rushing. He was like, we need to fix our rushing defense. Yeah. This is the guy to do it. That was basically his telltale of it. But I did like that aspect of that first episode where he's like, all right, you come in the room, you tell us your scheme and what you're needing and your needs and what you need. Yeah. And then I loved how the first thing that he wanted to combat is how they're going to use Isaiah Simmons, which we saw glimpses of. He could be that guy that could wear any type of cloak. You could put him out in coverage. You could have him rush. He could be a safety, so I think he's going to be a huge key to the defense this year. And then I thought that the Brian Burns thing makes more sense now because when you saw he was having the conversation, he's very close with the Panthers.
He's fishing. Yeah, he was going fishing.
He's like, our families are close. We're going on vacation, and then he threw out the whole, hey, how about 2 firsts for Burns thing, and then like. Even in the show, they stopped and they go, well, does that mean he's on the market kind of deal? So that whole thing didn't, it makes sense now. I thought it was, there was talks of us trying to trade for him, during the season and a whole bunch of stuff. So I definitely think that's going to be, I haven't been this excited for a pass rusher in a long time. So I got the jersey on the way.
Oh, no. See, I have a moratorium on jerseys for people till their career is over now. No more will I buy, because I got a Saquon sitting in there that I'll probably never wear again, and it's a beautiful jersey.
I got a Saquon and I got Odell sitting in my closet, and I'm just like...
The Saquon went to the
dog. The Saquon one. We might burn that one in the parking lot in the Steelers game. That one might happen.
We'll see.
The Saquon one, I threw outside. I fed it to the dog, and then it ended up in the trash. So that one's bye-bye.
And one of these episodes, we'll talk about the only jersey that really matters, but not this one. We'll get into the.
I have my tuck around here still. I have my tuck ones.
And tuck's worthy.
If I'm wearing
tuck's worthy.
That's what I'll.
Yeah.
To add insult to injury of getting the new guy, I got the new legacy jersey, so the throwback jersey. So. We'll see how that goes, but
so it's funny how times have changed. Your grandfather in his whole life, the only jersey he ever got, handed to him on his 60th birthday a few months before he passed away. You've had, I don't even know how many jerseys. Like it's
the jersey thing is just
like we could all jerseys. I don't even know.
Yeah, for sure.
But,
for sure.
But to tie back into to go back to the running back discussion, I thought. The funniest thing, which I saw a couple people on Twitter and Instagram pick up on it, was they're at the East-West Shrine game, and Shane is with the college scout, and they're talking to Frank Gore.
Right.
Now, what's the odds that they're talking about, we think when a guy gets to 26, 27, you're talking to Mr. Longevity himself.
Exactly.
And he's sitting there like scratching his head like, are they really talking to me about longevity? This guy's been, his career, speaks for itself.
It does. And again, that's what's so awesome about a guy like Gore. Again, he transcended whatever team he was on. Didn't matter. He was producing.
Yeah.
He was producing, so...
I wanted them to go in more about his son. That would have been a cool dynamic to bring up his son being a back coming out in the draft. I'm surprised the Giants didn't do... I don't know if they did. They might talk about it, but I don't think they did much due diligence in terms of his son. But he did go undrafted. I think he went undrafted. Yeah,
I was a little surprised.
He went to Buffalo. He
did.
So.
Okay,
nice.
Close enough, right? That's New York Giants North, right? I mean, we're so tied to them now because of Daboll and Shane. But I was a little surprised.
Been the Giants 3 years.
That any conversation about the defense, Kayvon's name didn't come up at all. I just thought that was interesting. Not that he won't be covered in some other episode, but Dexter they talked about. They talked about Simmons and all that, and nowhere and pass rushers, right? No one said, "Oh, by the way, we do have a guy." So I just wonder what that means, right? So anyway, I just thought that was an interesting thing that was left out of it was his name. So
well, the big dynamic change too is our wing system. The safety is calling the shots and everything, and Bowen made the emphasis that our inside linebackers need to be the brains of the operation. And when I was at that legacy night, they had asked Bobby Okereke while he was there, he's like, are you ready to take on that kind of thing? And he's very intelligent. And we saw what him and Micah McFadden did without those responsibilities. So with them calling shots and whatnot, I'm excited to see those two, work some more magic.
And I probably should have brought this up front, but I'm going to just briefly talk a little bit more about our credentials because they're important. So again, we've been in this so long, like, Drew went to the legacy night, the 100 night. I think there's been a lot of clips about that. People have seen that. But actually, we, as a collective, represented 20% of the Giants' entire fan base in the 2020 draft, right? So, anyone who watched that draft, right, the first round, the three of us are of the 15 people representing that, and the Giants asked us to do that. Let's just make that clear. Like it wasn't like we won some lottery. Like there was a selection. They said, "Who are our best fans?" Well, let me contact the Marchesani family because they represent. So that's let's just they respect us. So anyway.
Well, we had that, and then they asked us to do the Sunday Night Football.
That was
the
later that same year.
Exactly. Couple instances.
They needed us so badly they brought us back, right? So they just didn't trust anybody else with that responsibility, and I think it was well deserved. So anyway, all right. Anything else out of this Hard Knocks that caught your attention?
I think they showed glimpses of they're gonna, I guess, try to make a main focus of Daniel Jones's recovery, what he's thinking, what the Giants plan. I think they're going to get into them bringing in Drew Lock and what their thought process is with that. They might, hint on DeVito staying around. So I'm interested to see where that storyline goes because I think I hate to say it, but Drew Lock is a high possibility of beating the starting quarterback. A couple games in. I hate to say it, but there's a high possibility because they're saying, they even hint at it in the first episode that he's, his recovery isn't seeming like it's the most speedy process. So
great.
How
about
that'll be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah. Anything else from you on that, Lucas, on the episode?
No, like Drew said, and Shane made a point of emphasis. Like we have to protect ourselves when it comes to quarterback. Like we cannot roll out there with an undrafted rookie again.
Yeah.
No offense to DeVito. He played well for what he is, but
he was fun.
I don't think Drew Lock is the end all be all.
Yeah.
I don't think like this is a telling season. To me, like we'll see how it goes. If we're just sticking to
he has beaten the Eagles, which we like quarterbacks.
He did. I watched that game. That was awesome. Yeah, he put the backpack on. He went to work. Yeah, him Gino. Right. That was a great moment.
He had his Colt McCoy moment.
And former Giant Julian Love had 2 interceptions that game on Jalen. He redeemed himself after he got burned. Was it 2 years ago when he completely whiffed on the interception? Devontae Smith walked in the end zone. The game was over in 5 seconds. So. He totally redeemed himself.
We don't carry our scars around at all. What I find funny, again, having watched enough Hard Knocks, is we like the personalities in this one, the primary ones, could not be on the surface more boring. I mean, Joe Shane is as vanilla as it gets. Daniel Jones is as vanilla as it gets, and Brian Daboll, like. The three of them.
They won't give you anything.
Like if you go back and you watch the Lions one, you got Dan Campbell. I mean, it's crazy town, right? You watched last year, you had Aaron Rodgers, right? And Aaron Rodgers is his big personality. and now we got these 3 guys where it's like you got to wake up and go.
Daboll's too Patriots still. Yeah. He doesn't give you anything.
Well, and between the 3 of us, in terms of doing your job, I'll take these 3. Like I'd rather not. Like just focus on your job, right? But it is funny from a television perspective to think that this is the dynamic they're relying on. So maybe they'll give the mic to Dexter a little bit more because he's more entertaining. So
I love that he texts you, Shane. Hey, what about Christian?
Exactly.
His best friend. Like, it'd be a real shame if my college teammate and best friend appeared. Yeah. I did like how they played around with signing Chris Jones too. Be like, could you imagine if we had Chris Jones and Dex? Oh my God! We would also have to pay Chris Jones like $6 million more a year than what Burns is getting, but that would have been insane.
Well, that's what's so funny too, because it's like it's them having the conversations we have. It's just that they could actually try to make it happen, right? We love to go, what if we had Chris Jones? Yeah, we could get Chris Jones. They're actually going, what if we got Chris Jones? I don't know.
Can we get Chris Jones?
So yeah, it's pretty funny to think about it that way. So, all right, well, I'm gonna wrap this one up. I thought this was good start. I enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Anybody who watched it, maybe my mom will watch it. We'll wave to your grandmother,
there
guys, because I'm sure she watched it. And we'll do it again next week. We'll just find a time that works for the 3 of us. After the Hard Knocks. But all right, just hang on 1 second. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.